Thank you so much for joining me today. In today's video, I will be going through my routine for studying kanji, which is a part of the Japanese writing system. I am using the intermediate Kanji Book. I will be honest, this is not my favorite kanji study book. I think the layout is a bit unintuitive and it's kind of annoying to use, but it was the book assigned for my Japanese classes, so this is what I'm using. I am pretty out of practice when it comes to studying kanji. It's probably been about 6 months since I've opened this book, to be honest. So even though we went through this entire book in my Japanese courses, today I'm going back to chapter 4 to review and refresh some of the kanji that I've forgotten. This book has different exercises and kind of worksheets in each chapter in order to practice and study the kanji, which is nice. The thing that I don't like about this book is that all of the kanji are in kind of an index in the back. So you'll see all the kanji covered in the chapter are here in this box. This chapter has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 kanji, which is quite a few to learn in one go. In my class, we would be assigned about a chapter a week, and we would be tested on it every week. So in the back of the book, there is an index with all of the kanji, and that is where you will find the stroke order for the kanji, as well as its kunyomi and onyomi, or the readings of the kanji, and all of the kanji compounds. So the somewhat irritating thing, this index is organized by radicals, not by when the kanji appears in the book, so you will have to keep flipping through in order to find all of the kanji present in one chapter by radical instead of by chapter groupings. If you have another kanji book you like, I would recommend that one, as this one is just a little bit cumbersome to use, but it does help you get used to radicals in the way you would find kanji organized in a Japanese dictionary. So my kanji study routine is not super complicated. One of the first things I do for every new chapter of kanji or set of kanji I want to learn or practice is make flashcards. Groundbreaking, I know, but I personally prefer to write out flashcards, I think that the act of writing down the kanji is much more beneficial than having it in a app like Anki where you can type it, especially since in my class we were always tested on writing the kanji, so being able to type it wasn't always helpful. On the back, I would write the onyomi in katakana and the kunyomi in hiragana. Underneath, I'll write its part of speech and its English definition. The position of my camera tripod over my desk made it a little bit difficult to write as neatly as I would like, so please pardon my penmanship. Each entry in this kanji index has different, inflections of each character and kanji compounds, so I will try and make a flashcard for each different inflection, as well as the different compounds and their meanings. This often means that I am making 5 or 6 different flashcards for each character, and with 20 characters a chapter, I am making somewhere between 80 and 100 flashcards for each chapter, which is a lot, but I find that the manual practice of just putting pen to paper and practicing the kanji over and over is the best way for me personally to remember them, especially when it comes to having to write them by hand instead of typing. This process of writing flashcards probably takes me somewhere between 40 minutes and an hour, depending on exactly how many kanji are present in each chapter. Now that I am no longer a graduate student, I definitely do this less frequently, but I'm trying to get back in the habit of using or practicing kanji regularly, because I know that I will forget it if I don't keep up with it. course, if you prefer using some sort of mobile flashcard or digital flashcard like Anki or Quizlet, that's of course perfectly fine. They're super convenient. I just find that for me personally, those apps or programs don't really help me with reading or writing retention. It sometimes helps me with meaning, but for me, I need that practice of writing it down. I know that flashcards are not a particularly original or innovative technique, but this next part I have found has really helped me in vocabulary retention, and it's something I haven't seen anywhere else. I actually learned it in my high school French class when learning French vocabulary, and it really helped me not only with my short-term but also my long-term memory when it came to French vocab. All you will need is a single sheet of lined notebook paper. Once you have that sheet of paper, you'll want to fold it vertically into 3 even sections. And once you have your sections, in your first column, you will start writing down your kanji that you have chosen to study. I picked about 16 characters or kanji compounds because that's how many I can fit on this sheet of paper if I skip a line between each one. If you don't skip lines, you can fit even more, but I'm using college ruled paper and I find it difficult to squeeze that many kanji into each line without making it look really messy. So in your first column, you will just write all of the kanji or vocabulary words you want to study. As I said, I learned this technique in French class, so it works in any language, any foreign language you want to study, not just Japanese, obviously. Once you have finished writing all of your kanji in the first column, you will move to the second column and start writing their readings next to the kanji in the first column. If you're doing single kanji, you can have multiple readings, but if you're doing kanji compounds, you'll probably only have one reading. If you want, you can write the English definition instead of the reading in hiragana. It just depends on what you want to study. If you were doing this in a language besides Japanese, for example French, you would fill the first column with the French words and the middle column with the English translation. As you can probably tell, I have not studied these words in a while, so especially for the first pass, I need to refer to those flashcards I made quite frequently. And that's fine. The goal is not necessarily to have every word memorized your first pass through. Once you have finished the second column of the readings, you'll take the first section and fold it back on the opposite side of the paper, so that when you flip it back to the front side, only the hiragana readings are available. You'll then go down the third column and once again write the kanji. So you're reading the hiragana and writing the kanji. If you were doing this, once again, say in French, you would be reading the English and writing the French. This method is really effective for vocabulary retention because you're essentially giving yourself a mini quiz every time. If you need to, you can refer back to your flashcards or just flip over the paper if you forget a word, but your goal is to get a little better at writing either the hiragana reading or the kanji each time. And once you finish that column, you will flip it around and fold it to the back side of your paper. so that you have it folded around to the back. You only have one column visible. Your previous two columns are hidden. And just like before, you will be reading the kanji and writing the hiragana. When that column is complete, you unfold it, hide the kanji again, and do the exact same thing. Now you're filling out your columns right to left instead of left to right. Finally, when you have finished that column, you're going to hide the previous column again, and then go back through and write the hiragana reading one last time. This entire technique usually takes me about 20 minutes, and I find really, really effective for retaining vocabulary in any language. I have used it to study French and Korean, and I regularly use it to study kanji. You essentially give yourself 5 mini tests back to back, so you're constantly asking your brain to retrieve that reading or the kanji from your short-term memory, and eventually it just sticks. I don't really know the science behind it, but I have used this method for probably almost 8 years in learning French, Korean, and Japanese, and I still use it even today because I really do think it is one of the most effective methods I've found for memorizing and retaining small chunks of vocabulary. So as I said, I might have 80 kanji compounds I need to memorize each week. So I will do this technique each time with a set of 20 vocabulary words. So 1 sheet of paper per chunk of vocabulary words, and by the end of it I will have memorized all of the vocabulary words I need for that week. Besides that, I just review my flashcards and of course fill out the worksheets or exercises inside this kanji book, but not every textbook will have worksheets like these, and I don't think that they're necessarily that essential for learning and retaining the meanings or readings of the kanji. I hope you found this video educational, interesting, or relaxing. Hopefully a mix of all three. Let me know if you try that trifold technique and how it works for you. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in my next video. Good night.